Really excited to talk to you today about Scope 2 accounting, the topic on top of everyone's minds, I'm sure. And so, really excited to get your perspective. Akamai as a company, you as an individual have really been on the forefront of the voluntary procurement. And so great to get your perspective today. So before we get into details, maybe just step back for a moment. What is the greenhouse gas Scope 2 protocol? Why does it exist? And what impact has it had to date on corporate procurement?
I'd say in a couple of ways, the way that it applies to businesses today. One, it's an underlying mechanism for all accounting to happen relative to your carbon emissions footprint based on your electricity usage. I don't think a lot of people today have details specifically on this. I think there's a lot of folks that understand it, know it's integrated into their businesses, understand how it kind of broadly works, but don't understand the actual importance of having this underlying accounting standard applying to how they're measuring their emissions relative to their electricity usage. A big piece of that comes from where you're consuming power today, how that power is being consumed in that market, and how it's being applied more broadly to the emissions impact in those areas, depending on the markets that you're in today. Looking at this kind of on a holistic basis, that voluntary procurement of that underlying emissions impact statement, if you're looking to reduce your emissions overall, companies have gone out to voluntarily procure renewable energy in various markets to lower their overall impact from an emissions perspective. So it's really as simple as using this as an accounting mechanism to make sure that you are reasonably stating the obvious on the emissions impact of your business.
And so I guess when we think about this is a NGO written voluntary standard, this isn't federally mandated in the US or elsewhere. So why has it had such a big impact on driving procurement to date? And we've done 200 gigawatts of renewable procurement, most of that in the last decade since this Scope 2 accounting was published. How much of that is really linked to the standard existing and people take credit directly for their actions?
I think a big thing on the market-based standard today, and I'll talk about the market and location-based standard here a little bit, but really on the market-based standard, putting some sort of voluntary mechanism in for businesses to get credit relative to their purchases, I think is a big piece of the puzzle here in not only being able to acquire new renewable energy, but showcasing that your business is on the forefront of having a positive impact on the planet. And I think in a lot of ways, a lot of people think through this and go, well, would businesses have gone out and procured if they didn't have the standard? And the answer is kind of gray, right? Because those mechanisms have helped really drive the voluntary market in a very positive way. So taking it back to what you originally asked me, which is related to the World Resources Institute, a very well-known nonprofit focused on kind of broader impacts on the planet from a variety of different aspects. When they first pulled together this protocol of standards, it was really one of the first documents that corporations, communities, cities could really get around in more broadly measuring their overall carbon intensity and carbon impact. And that has, as we've seen, has spread out across regulations today, has spread across kind of broader country impacts, has spread across how we look at different metrics in our broader reporting pieces today. This underlying standard has really supported not only the voluntary pieces of what we're trying to accomplish today, it's also supported how we can report on a regulation and impact perspective as well.
So that makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like since Scope 2 standard came into effect roughly a decade ago, it's had a bunch of positive impact. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why all this talk about rewriting it and making changes to it today?
It's a great point, right? It has driven a significant amount of procurement. We just heard, the 100 gigawatt milestone at SIBA, which I think is an incredible one and certainly hawks up to what the membership has done. All of that effort today, I would say, for the bulk of what was procured, the Scope 2 protocol has underlined that approach. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I think in a lot of ways, there's a lot of opportunity for generalized improvements, whether it's various options and where accounting standards can be applied and integrated. And I think, more broadly, looking at how standards are written today, choosing a single path of impact or choosing a single mode of impact. You really have to look at the broader picture of the opportunity and the overall way and how the accounting can get applied. And I always think about this from an IFRS or ASC perspective, where you kind of see the broader accounting standards today on the financial side. This is a very similar exercise when you're talking about, doing a dollar for dollar accounting and the metric ton and metric ton,
Yep.
accounting for carbon emissions, right? So this standard has not only helped benefit all of that on the granularity side, it's built an approach to how businesses not only can interpret, but also figure out where they can have their most benefit in where they're procuring and how that they're procuring today. So I would say, if I were to level set on that and think about this kind of from a broader perspective today, it isn't broke, right? I would say it's created a significant amount of demand. It continues to create a significant amount of demand, and I think that overall, as we look at this and as the TWG and the ISB are thinking about these things, they have to look at it with a holistic approach of we can overlay the standards for corporates, communities, cities, countries to apply those individual standards in the ways that they see fit.